Welcome to Disability News and Views, a production of the City of Boston's Disabilities Commission. Today, in our February 2024 episode, we are dedicating it to Black History Month, and our guests include longtime disability movement leader Joanne Daniels-Finegold and Frank Farrow, the Executive Director of the Mayor's Office for Black Male Advancement. First, we're going to get to hear from Joanne Daniels-Finegold. Joanne is a disability movement leader who has significantly increased disability access to public transportation. We all know that public transportation promotes jobs, education, friends, family, supplies, services. Okay, pretty much everything, all while reducing pollution and contributing to a healthy lifestyle. It wasn't that long ago that people with disabilities could not use the public transportation to the extent that we can now. An increased disability access to the MBTA is the result of the incredible perseverance and dedication of Joanne Daniels-Finegold. Joanne was the lead plaintiff in a class action lawsuit that made the MBTA accountable to the ADA and significantly expanded public transportation options for people with disabilities in Boston. So now I'm going to kick it to Ken Meyer, our co-host, for an interview with Joanne Daniels-Finegold. Take it away, Ken.
Oh, it's nice to talk to you, Joanne, and also to find out about the inside stuff on the T that I used to ride every day to get to work. What was it that got you involved and had such a passion for something like this?
Well, the lawsuit that I'm affiliated with is Joanne Daniels-Finegold et al. Versus the MBTA was filed in 2002, and it was settled in 2006. I was approached by one of the lawyers in the case who asked me while I was on the Green Line, did I ever have problems working using the T? And the answer was yes. It's hard to imagine now the way things were then. At the time, there were only 5 accessible stops on the Green Line total. Not all the buses were accessible, and if you lived on a non-accessible route, you had to call in advance, just like you do for the ride, to get a bus to your stop when you needed it, and you had to hope that the lift would work. The difficulties incurred just trying to get through the system between broken elevators, broken bus lifts, just trying to deal with the team gave me the passion to go forward and work with GBLS on the lawsuit.
20 years. That's a long time. What do you think was the most impactable changes on the T in those 20 years?
To be sure, having a 100% accessible bus fleet was probably the biggest change that came about. Secondly, I would say having the Green Line become usable. It wasn't truly usable for people. It was the terminal stations plus Park Street that had access, and that was it. That was all. You couldn't actually, Charles MGH was one of the later ones that was open. You couldn't get to any of the hospital stops. There just were no stops. There were literally five stops on the Green Line. But those are the two biggest changes, I'd say.
Now, I remember I was still working at City Hall when the new MBTA station at Government Center went into existence. Was that a tough row to hoe, as it were?
The problems with Government Center, it was the time it took to open it, to basically get it so that there was an exit that was with elevator serviced, and it just took a long time, and people complained about it. I don't blame them, but Haymarket was fairly close. I mean, I had to go. I wasn't able to use Government Center before it was open, but instead I had to do what everybody else did and had to do, before then, was use Haymarket or Park Street.
Okay. There are a lot of ads at the T stations now. Tell us how they came about, and the fact, I think, that to point out to people that anybody that is in those ads are people that have a disability.
Oh, the marketing campaign that began last spring. It was put together over the course of a couple of months, getting the videos and the photos done. Everybody in those pictures, all those photos are disabled, including the T employees that are shown. System-wide accessibility, the Department of System-wide Accessibility would not have done this without, they wouldn't have put in people who weren't disabled in the marketing campaign. It would have been, it just wouldn't have happened.
Okay. What else are you and other T advocates waiting for to occur on the T?
Or we're quite frankly looking for, and it's something that T upper management has said. Several GMs have said we're looking toward 100% accessibility. It's noble. It's going to be difficult. It's one of those things where we don't want to hear the news reports of something else that's happened or on the T. We want things to be positive. We want it to be something. It's like, as I said in the beginning, it's difficult to remember how bad things were because things are actually so good now in comparison. The T is much more accessible than, say, MTA in New York. It's worlds beyond that. We have a really fairly good transportation system. We just want to make sure it stays the same. It doesn't go backwards, and it progresses forward, so things are more accessible for folks.
So do you keep up on what's occurring in other cities besides New York? I mean, man, New York is.
We have heard, as people who work with the T, the plaintiffs. Okay, the plaintiffs group, those of us who are left, work with the T regarding access issues. Also, RTAG, the Riders Transportation Access Group, that anyone is able to go online, join in on meetings, and find out what's going on at the T. And I urge people to, if you have any issues, if you have any comments, if you want to know what's going on, contact RTAG, attend the RTAG Zoom meetings. It's that's probably the best thing, as far as people getting information is concerned, and finding out what's going on at the T. There are stations that are currently being made accessible on the Green Line. There's a number of issues that are going on, and people need to know, and will be given information regarding.
Well, I hope that everything works out okay. And the next time somebody takes the T, I hope they enjoy it and enjoy the ride, as it were. So
Yeah.
thank you for being here, and continue good luck riding the T.
Thank you, and working with them also. This Department of System-wide Accessibility is an awesome group of people.
Good to talk to you, Joanne.
It's good to talk to you too. Anytime.
You bet. You take care.
I will. You too.
Now, let's kick it back to Colleen, who will introduce our next segment here on Disability News and Views.
Thank you, Ken, and thank you, Joanne. That was a great interview. Learned a lot about how disabled Black leaders have made Boston more accessible for everybody. I'm now going to kick it to Commissioner Kristen McCosh, who is going to lead an interview with the Executive Director of the Mayor's Office for Black Male Advancement, Frank Farrow.
Welcome to Disability News and Views. My name is Kristen McCosh. I'm the Disability Commissioner for the City of Boston, and I am very honored to be here talking with Frank Farrow, the Executive Director of the Office of Black Male Advancement. Welcome, Frank.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we're really excited to hear all about you. So could you tell us a little bit about your department and your role in the department?
Yep. Glad to be here. And thank you for all the great work that you and your team are doing, and ensuring that residents have the support and resources to navigate the city of Boston. So again, my name is Frank Farrow. I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Black Male Advancement. Our office focuses on empowering Black men and boys, and making sure that they have equitable access to opportunities in the city. As part of our work, we focus on policy, programming, and resources, as well as developing local and national partnerships. And our ultimate goal is to ensure that Black men and boys have the support to thrive and share in the city's prosperity.
That's great. And what do you have for staff?
So right now we are a staff of 9, and we are a newer office in the city. Thanks to our mayor Michelle Wu. We are a little over 2 years old, and so our staff, we currently have a staff of 9, and our priorities are economic opportunity and workers' empowerment, public health, fatherhood and families, education and youth advancement, affordable housing and pathways to homeownership, community safety, returning citizens, and the root of it all to compass kind of all of our work is equity and racial justice.
Yes, on that note, as you alluded to, you and I work very closely under the Cabinet of Equity and Inclusion. We have a very dedicated chief, Chief Mary Angeli Sola Severa. So Frank and I do meet monthly to talk about elevating diversity and equity within the city of Boston. So yep, thank you for telling us all about your department.
Thank you.
So the Office of Black Male Advancement also runs a program called Community Empowerment Small Grant Fund. And I read that you recently distributed over $500,000 to community-based organizations serving Black males in the community. Each organization was eligible to receive $20,000 in grants, which can make a substantial difference in their programming. And this is such an exciting project. I'd love you to talk a little bit about that and tell us some of the organizations that were able to benefit from this program.
So that program, we actually are finalizing our grants for this batch. We have 155 applicants that in the coming weeks we'll be awarding 500,000. Last year, we actually awarded $745,000 of grants to over 63 organizations in the city of Boston, working with Black men and boys that were aligned with our key values and focus areas, and supporting gaps that we may have in the city of Boston, but are also doing great work on the ground. And we want to make sure we're able to support those organizations and elevate those partnerships. Like one of the partners, No Books, No Ball, they run a youth mentoring and basketball program where they engage with over 100 young student athletes um, 3 times a week in the city of Boston. So they provide, basketball skills and drills. They provide mentoring, and they also provide a reading literacy program. And one of the key kind of focuses of our office, we want to make sure that we're not only supporting health and wellness, but we're also supporting the growth and the education achievement of our students, and making sure that they have those out of school supports. For that, we have organizations like 3 Point Foundation, who does work with our young folks to make sure that they have the support if they're matriculating out of high school for college readiness, career readiness, and for through our MBK program, we want to make sure that we're supporting our young people so that they have the opportunity and support to thrive in the city of Boston. And then we have a number of organizations that we support through housing support, as well as workforce and worker opportunity and training support through different pathways to career, and helping folks kind of develop those supports and ensure that they are prepared for the next level of their careers.
Yes, and the ability to access funding like this to fill those gaps that exist, like you said, is so critical to community organizations and ultimately to the residents of Boston, Black males and boys in particular, because we also see that with people with disabilities. When you have a program that's thriving, but could just use that little bit of extra funding to get to that, make that bridge, it's just so critical. And as we know, disability cuts across every sector. So I'm sure some of the people that you're serving also have disabilities, and we're thrilled that they're able to benefit from these programs.
Absolutely. We encompass Black men and boys, some that may have disability issues, some, that, have mental health issues. And we just want to make sure that we are an avenue of support and advocacy, to make sure that they're connected, no matter what their background. And so we try to make sure we prioritize for everyone that identifies as a Black man, as a child in the city of Boston, no matter their background. Our office is open to support and make sure that we provide of assistance to them.
Great. And as we know, not all disabilities are visible. So as I said, you may be serving more people with disabilities than even you realize.
Hmm.
That's great. Great to hear. And I look forward to seeing which organizations are awarded the funds this year. That will be coming out next week, did you say?
Yeah, so we have a meeting early next week to finalize those grants, and so our goal is to try to get them out as soon as possible. So if they're not released next week, it'll be shortly thereafter. But that's our plan.
Excellent. So another project that you work on is called Project Opportunity, which I understand is an effort to connect residents with services for quarry, sealing and expungement, job searching skills and training. Can you tell us about this initiative and the importance of it in the city of Boston?
Yep. So our Project Opportunity program is a program that we launched last year, and our focus is supporting individuals. They may have criminal records, and so we have a partnership where we are able to help individuals with criminal records to help them with legal assistance for sealing their criminal record or expunging their quarry record. And so we partner with the Lawyers Clearance House, and they actually ensure that there's legal assistance to help them navigate the process. And if they need support when going to court, they provide a lawyer to go into court and help them with that process. And the other side of the work is ensuring that we're helping, individuals that may have criminal records find employment. And so we have a partnership with Mass Hire Boston, um, and we work with them to help identify quarry-friendly job opportunities. And so we're helping them in their transition to find stable work and able to kind of get themselves in a position where they can work, and as well as advance in their careers and go on and be positive contributing members of our community.
That's really, really so important. And one thing that our viewers may not realize is that the city of Boston as an employer does not necessarily reject applicants just because they have a quarry. We do ask that question on human resources applications, job applications, but just because someone has a quarry, we don't want them to self-select out of applying for a job because it may be relevant, it may not be relevant. So I'm sure you spread the word about that as well.
I think that the other thing that's great about the city of Boston and our HR department, we've worked with them recently around our Corey policy. And so there are some new provisions in language to help address those systemic barriers to employment for the city of Boston that should be announced, soon. And so our HR team is doing a great job of, really looking at old policies and looking at positions that, may have previously been labeled, barred access for employment because of queries, and looking at which positions, require queries, which ones don't. And so, HR team, we've been working with them to update our query policy, and that's something that's, going into effect this year.
Great, I'll look forward to that announcement. And speaking of systemic access, can you talk about the training that your office provides? I don't know if it's you or some of your staff to City of Boston employees to talk about these Corey reforms.
Yeah. So the training that we provide is through our partnership with the Lawyers Clearance House. So they provide the legal assistance, they provide the Corey support, and they also have um, folks that are knowledgeable. And so we work with them, and they kind of, as the experts, come in and provide the training to not only HR, but as well as to the different external employment agencies to make sure that that they're up to date on, what Corey is and how it impacts and what they should be doing. So, we give kudos to our external partners that are doing great work in the community. And, sometimes we may, not have all the answers, and, we follow the guidance from, the folks that are, experts in that space, and help to support and make sure they have access to share that information out.
Yes, and it's so important to break down those systemic barriers because they will just select people out automatically when the system is broken. So it's like you can't even get a foot in the door if you have these systemic barriers. So I know a lot of your policy work is focused on breaking down those barriers so that we can, get more people to encourage them to apply for jobs. Like you said, they need to be able to access employment if they want to, remain independent in the community. And that's really what it's all about.
Absolutely.
Great. So another important population that we like to talk about are Boston Public School students. We know they're the future of the city. So can you talk about your mentoring programs across BPS that will support youth development and encourage mentoring?
Yes. So we are fortunate to have great partners in our school system in BPS, and we have an initiative called Reach 1000, where we have a goal of reaching 1,000 BPS students over the next 2 years to make sure that they have support, mentoring support. And then on the flip side, a focus of engagement to engage 1,000 mentors to support the mentees in our school system over the next 2 years. Because one of the focus for us is like making sure our students have a mentor, they have positive role models and positive interactions to help support them. And so that's an initiative that we're doing in collaboration with the Office of Student Support at BPS. And then the other thing we're ensuring through that partnership, we're also working to ensure that, students that are old enough, they're able to access employment opportunities, training, apprenticeship opportunities, and then the support that they need for pathways to career and college, for their engagement and enrollment in the program, and just be, to continue to engage and follow them and support them as they navigate school, if they are, playing sports, if they're graduating, if there is a school event, just make sure that we're connected and we remain engaged, because it's something that's important and it's powerful to have a mentor and a positive role model to engage, for our young people.
And do you work with students of all ages?
Yep. So it's focused. It's from kindergarten to 12th grade. So all ages, as long as you are school age, and the only requirement is that you are a resident of Boston, no matter what school you go to, resident of Boston. We want to make sure that, any family, any student that is looking for a positive role model for a mentor, that we're able to match them with the mentor to support them.
That is just amazing. And do you also work across all the schools?
Yep. So through our partnership with BPS, it's a program that's open and available to all students across all schools.
That's wonderful. So excited to hear that. Okay, so to switch gears a little bit, my department has a volunteer board who advises us on disability issues and makes important issues in the disability community known to us so that we can elevate them to the administration. Ours is called the Boston Disability Commission Advisory Board. And similarly, your office has a commission of Black men and boys, which also, I believe, advises the mayor on issues pertaining to Black men and boys in the community. Could you talk about their work and how you work together to implement initiatives to improve outcomes for Black
Yep.
lives in Boston?
Absolutely. So, our commission was established in 2021. We have a large advisory board. It's made up of 21 of Black males with experience, knowledge, and expertise on issues concerning Black men and boys in the city of Boston. So we meet once a month. Our meetings are open to the public. We have hybrid options, so we have in person and we have virtual, and we make sure that we're sharing that information out publicly and through public notice, so everyone is aware that they have the opportunity to engage. And our commission's focus is, advising our office on, issues related to policy, programming, and budget. And we just had our actual meeting last night where our commission released their FY25 budget recommendations, spanning across 8 departments in the city of Boston, looking at those gaps that we currently have in the city of Boston and make recommendations to address those gaps. And then as well as to help increase capacity for programs that exist that are doing great work, to make sure that we are, making sure that we're meeting the moment and doing what we need to do as a city and continue the great work as a city. And so, our commission is, um, broken up into 6 subcommittees. Those subcommittees are aligned with our priorities for the office, and it's chaired by former City Councilor Tito Jackson. So, we're very, proud of their work and their advocacy and their guidance as we kind of navigate the work that we're doing in the city of Boston.
Wow, that's amazing. And I know it's a newer commission, but are there any successes that you would like to highlight?
So the successes is that last year they released policy recommendations that have been acted on. This year they released their budget recommendations. Um, One of the highlights is, it's not a highlight for the commission, but maybe for the office. One of the commission members actually is now chief of staff in our office. Marjorie Good, who was a former commissioner, is now our chief of staff for the Office of Black Male Advancement. Through recommendations and advocacy of the commission, we've been able to see an investment in the work that Returning Citizens doing. The BPS announced that a number of schools are now teaching an AP course in Black history. So some of those, recommendations that put forth by the commission, and they also meet and engage with the different departments to share recommendations, but also our commission wants to make sure that they're not only providing recommendations, but they're able to act as a support and extension of our office and of the city of Boston to support and make sure that the information is getting out to the community. So a lot of great work happening. I look forward to, acting on those policy recommendations and the budget recommendations to move the work forward.
And just 2 things to expand on a little bit from what you said. the Office of Returning Citizens works with residents who were previously incarcerated. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then you also mentioned that you work with people who are I'm sorry, I think that was the only one I wanted to follow up with. But
Okay.
on that note, could you talk, do you have any openings on the board right now?
So we don't have, well, we have openings coming up. And so we expect, I think sometime we have some terms that end in May or June. So we expect to then come back with a public process and, taking new applications. So if anyone is interested, or if you know anyone interested in joining our commission, we expect to reopen the opportunity for applications to join and make nominations to the commission sometime in late May of this year.
And this is a way that residents can like directly impact the work of the city. So whether they apply for an open seat or attend the meetings, do you have public comment also at the meetings?
Yep, every meeting we have opportunity for public comment, and we welcome and we look forward to public comment. And one of the other things that we announced at last night's meeting is through our subcommittees, we're also looking to provide an opportunity for members of the community that want to engage to partake in our subcommittee meetings where all the the great work is happening on those subcommittee levels to make recommendations. So we'll be sharing out a community input and engagement form for opportunities if anybody wants to engage with subcommittees and any of their priorities, as well as in May, we'll be opening up for those opportunities to join the commission. So that community engagement form we should be releasing that Monday for anybody that wants to engage with our subcommittees currently. And maybe they don't have the time to commit to joining the commission, but they want to engage and make sure their voice is heard. We want to make sure that they have that opportunity.
And are your meetings virtual at this point?
Yeah, so we have a hybrid option. So most of our meetings at the either the Vine Street Community Center in Roxbury or the Bruce Bowling Building in Roxbury. So last night's meeting was at the Bruce Bowling Building, which is accessible, and we try to make sure like wherever we host our meetings that they're accessible to all that want to engage, whether that's make sure it's accessible in person or making sure that's accessible by having the virtual option.
You beat me to it. That was going to be my next question. Are these sites accessible? I know the bowling building is,
Yep.
but it's good to hear that Vine Street is as well.
Yep.
And just like, in the big picture, could you talk about some of the most important issues that are facing the Black community in Boston?
Well, I think some of the most important issues I think is facing, all communities of residents is, housing is kind of number one. We're dealing with displacement, gentrification, the cost of housing, and making sure our residents are able to live and stay in Boston versus, having to move because of affordability. And so like that is kind of one of the key areas that we're looking at is housing. Um, I think the second one is around workforce and opportunities to work at well-paying jobs that they're able to work, earn a good living, and live in Boston, jobs where they're not going to have to work two jobs in order to survive and take care of their families. And then the third one is around education, making sure that our young people have the support for educational achievement, whether they're on a pathway to college or on a pathway to career or trades or whatever they want to do, that they receive the best education and support in our schools.
And that's why your work is so important to impact policy and budget, because we know Boston has a history of redlining. We know our Black communities have been underserved, and even obviously Black schools back in the day were underserved, compared to the rest of the city. So that's just such incredible work to actually see it impacting the way the city does business.
Thank you.
So on that note, we know that February is Black History Month. So can you tell us a little bit about the importance of elevating the Black community during this month, and why it's so important that we celebrate it?
I'll say, one thing that I like to say is our focus is ensuring that we're celebrating Black history, Black present, and Black future every day. But during this month, we want to make sure, as a city, I think like the mayor and in each department is, doing a great job of finding a way to celebrate in their way. And I think it's important that we continue to celebrate our history and make sure that we're, noting, how far we have come in Boston. And, I think it's great to acknowledge the history, but it's also important that we acknowledge, where we're at and, the great work that's taking place. And, we have, a lot of, Black folks in leadership roles doing great work in the city of Boston, and helping to move the city forward. And, so for our office, like we are doing several Black History Month events. We're working with um, Lori Nelson, who is our for our equity cabinet senior advisor for racial justice, who's doing a great job of spearheading Black History Month for the city. And we're working alongside her. And today we actually did panel discussion with some Black city employees, talking about their experience, and how they're navigating and how they're celebrating Black History Month. And that was a huge success. And, we're, on our city's website, Black History Month, under the Equity Cabinets page, it lists all of the events that we're doing in the city of Boston for anyone that wants to engage. All of our events are free. They're open to the public. Um, and they should be. If they're not, we have to make sure, but they should be as accessible to everyone as possible. So, I think there are a lot of events coming up, but on our web equities webpage for Black History Month, it lays out all of the events that we're putting on the rest of the month for the city of Boston.
Great, and our staff can work with your staff to ensure that they're all accessible, the events, so I can follow up with you
Yep,
after this. Okay.
absolutely.
And that did remind me of what I was going to ask about the commission a few minutes ago. So you mentioned that Black history is now part of the curriculum in some of the Boston public schools. And that's just so important because we know we need to remember, understand the history so that it doesn't get, repeated. And even though, like, there's positive things now, we do need to remember that it wasn't always that way. So the fight goes on, to ensure equity and inclusion for people who are Black to this day. So how many schools has that been implemented in?
I believe right now it's around 10 schools.
Wow. So hopefully that will be
We've
expanded.
expanded, absolutely.
I'm sure the students are really appreciative of that because we know history can be rewritten and written by the powerful and those in charge. So we want to make sure that all voices are elevated in the city. Great. So is there anything else you would like to talk about before we wrap up today? Anything else you want to highlight or elevate from your work?
I I honestly I just want I just want to thank you and your team for the great work that you have been doing in the city of Boston, in leading, nationally to ensure that the work that's taking place is not an afterthought. It's front and center, and it's a priority. Accessibility is important, and I just want to commend you and your team for leading the work, and and I think everyone that's joining and everyone that's sharing their advocacy and letting their voice be heard around issues that are important to them to continue to advocate, and continue to reach out. And if there's anything that our office can do to help around any issue, please, look at us as a partner, as a support system to ensure that we're helping to advocate and elevate those issues and making sure that you have the support you need to thrive in the city. So I will leave on that note, and I thank you for having me this afternoon, and look forward to, the continued work that we're doing in the equity cabinet, and continue to meet the moment for all of our residents.
Great. And just to wrap up, can you tell the viewers how they can get in touch with your office?
Yep. So we can be reached at our email is bma@boston.gov. Our website is Black Male Advancement /Boston.gov. We're on social media at Office of BMA. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Office of BMA. And you're more than welcome to come up to City Hall. We're on the 8th floor in the Equity Cabinet in room 806. If anyone wants to come in person to connect with us, we try to be as accessible as possible, and make sure we're responsive to the needs of anyone that reaches out to us.
And then your commission meetings are posted on the website as
Yep.
public meetings?
Posted on the website. We meet the first Wednesday of every month. And so like clockwork, 6 p.m. In person or virtual, hybrid, and we post that information.
Great. And then finally, do you have a newsletter or regular mailings that people can sign up for?
So we're in the process of creating a newsletter. Right now, we have a database of constituents that we engage with and community organization we engage with. So if anyone reaches out and submits their email, their contact information, we'll make sure that they have all the updates that we share out. But we're hoping before the end of the month to finalize a newsletter that we'll be pushing out every month going forward.
That's great. And on that note, I just want to give a plug for our newsletter. If viewers want to sign up for that, we do a weekly email newsletter. You can find out more at disability@boston.gov. I'm sorry, boston.gov/disability, or you can email us to disability@boston.gov. Well, Frank, I'd like to thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us today. I know you're extremely busy this month with all your events and activities, but like you said, it's important to elevate the Black community every day, not just during February. So we certainly are your partners in that, and thrilled to be working with you. And we know it's a newer office, and we give a shout out to Mayor Wu for creating this office, because we can already see the impact of your work and your great staff and everything that you do.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, thanks, and we'll talk
All
to you.
right. Have a good one.
Great. I'm going to turn it back to Colleen.
Thank you, Commissioner McCosh, and thank you, Frank Farrow, for a great interview. And with that, we conclude our February 2024 episode of Disability News and Views. Thank you for watching. See you next month.